Hi everyone, this is Lorena Freyja, and welcome to Journey into Witchcraft. In today's episode, we are going to be discussing the aspects in astrology. Aspects are the angles the planets and other cosmic bodies make to each other in the horoscope. Different aspects differ in their angles between the aspected bodies. This is a highly complex subject, so that this episode will only dive into the basics, since I try to cater to beginners of witchcraft. Aspects refer to the distance, in terms of degrees, between points in the horoscope. The horoscope consists of 360 degrees, and each aspect is a division of that 360 degrees. For example, the square aspect divides the horoscope into 4 segments, making each aspect 90 degrees, since 360 degrees divided by 4 equals 90 degrees. All aspects create a motivational element and some tension that inspires a person to act. How motivational the aspect is depends on the aspect itself and the element involved. The aspects that are considered the most important are called the problematic aspects: the conjunction, the opposition, the trine, and the sextile. Definitely focus on these the most, especially if you're a beginner. Use the other aspects as you learn to grow your practice in astrology. Let's start with the conjunction. A conjunction is when 2 planets or other essential bodies are together or within a few degrees of each other in the horoscope. A conjunction is a powerful blending of the 2 planets or bodies, which both intensifies the symbolism of the 2 planets and confuses the energies of the 2 separate bodies. The individual planets seem to lose their individuality and take on some of the characteristics of the other, with the outer planet usually having more of an impact on the inner planet. The closer the conjunction, the stronger the merging of the symbolism, and the greater the difficulty of separating out and feeling the individual strengths of each planet. It is generally a harmonious aspect, but it requires a more complex understanding of how the symbolism of how the planets, signs, and houses work together. One example would be Neptune in conjunction with Venus. This means that the individual may have difficulty seeing those that they are in a relationship with clearly, and will have an ethereal quality to others. They will also often have unrealistic idealism they cannot see within themselves. A personal and more advanced example comes from my natal chart. Mars in Gemini, passing through my house 9, in conjunction with my natal Sun in Gemini. I know that's a mouthful. First note that Mars in Gemini is the current horoscope. So that's today's horoscope, what's going on today. And the Sun in Gemini is what's in my natal chart. So that was what's going on when I was born. Okay? As well as the house 9. So that was what was happening when I was born. This is how you're going to look into your personal aspects. So that only applies to you. So this is what this means, and this is how it applies to me in my personal life. This is a great time to fight for the things that you want. There may be a certain ease in the air to take on attitudes that help improve your actions and goals. taking what is blocked for whatever reason and making it work. Mars will energize your will and your willingness to act, helping you to assume the necessary attitudes to accomplish what you set out to do. Next comes the opposition. The opposition is when two planets or essential bodies are visually opposite of each other in the horoscope. They will be 180 degrees apart. This is traditionally said to be a disharmonious aspect, and the key to working with an opposition in the chart is integration of the opposing energies, To understand how they can work together, one must blend the symbolism of the planets, signs, and houses. This is an aspect that has more perspective than the conjunction. Since the opposing bodies can see each other, it's easier for the subject to understand how to integrate the two. The two bodies communicate and negotiate with each other. One example would be the moon opposing Jupiter. This gives the subject very big highs and lows emotionally, since Jupiter expands and the moon symbolizes emotions. The signs and house placements will give a deeper understanding. Now, I personally do not have any kind of opposition in my natal chart or anything recent with an opposition to the current horoscope, so I cannot give any personal examples for them. So sorry about that. But we will move on to the trine. The trine is an aspect where the planets or essential bodies are 120 degrees apart, which means that the 360 degrees of the horoscope is divided into 3. It is important to note that this can be 2 bodies and does not have to be all 3 bodies to be a trine. These bodies are almost always in the same element, meaning earth, air, fire, or water, unless they are dissociated. This is the most flowed and harmonious aspect. The essential bodies work effortlessly together, complementing and enriching each other. The trine shows us where our natural strengths are. The 2 essential bodies are in signs of the same element and work in a symbiotic relationship. An example is Venus in Libra, trine Neptune in Aquarius. This would mean a person is likely to be intuitive and creative, but since it comes so naturally, they might not actually utilize that strength in their daily life. For a more complex example, I have a trine in my natal chart currently. Venus in Pisces, passing through my house 7, is trine with my natal Pluto in Scorpio. This means that interpersonal connections tend to be deeper and more powerful during this aspect. It is a good time to make changes to your environment, finding new uses for old items or items that no longer serve your purposes. Equally conducive to personal reflection and spiritual self-regeneration. You will be able to feel and want to express love more intensely, where sexual desire can also be heightened. New relationships, if initiated at the moment, tend to be quite intense and deeply connected. Next comes the square. The square is the most challenging and the most energizing aspect, which means that the 2 planets or essential bodies are separated by 90 degrees, and the 360 degrees of the zodiac is divided by 4. In a square aspect, the planets are in the greatest tension to each other. The angle of the square suggests that the essential bodies can't see eye to eye, and yet are affected by each other. This is said to be a disharmonious aspect. An example would be Venus square Saturn, which can indicate blocks in intimacy, in relationships, and/or frugality with money. With conscious awareness and maturity, the tension can be relaxed and transmuted into stability in a relationship and/or the ability to build great financial success. Now, I have multiple current squares in my natal chart, so I will go over each of them individually just to give you a few more examples, some more knowledge about this. As I have said before, these are far more complex and for more experienced witches when it comes to astrology. So my first example is Mercury in Aquarius passing through my house 5, and it's square with my natal Mars in Taurus. So during this transit, talking too much may get you into trouble and get in the way of everyday life. Ideally, you should reflect a lot before uttering the words. You may also end up thinking one thing and doing another because of a certain mental restlessness. Be mindful because you tend to be more nervous and excited than usual, as well as being more competitively intelligent. In this period, try to perceive if you are not somehow pushing people to see things your way only because your reasoning is faster. Don't go looking for trouble. It may find you more easily. Reinforce your attention in the way you're thinking, acting, or relating. My second example is the Sun in Aquarius passing through my house 6, and it's square with my natal Pluto in Scorpio. During this transit, avoid situations where other people might try to impose their will on you, and avoid doing this to them as ego conflicts may occur more easily. This is a complicated and challenging influence where you may feel a little more under pressure. Control any surge of arrogance or domineering attitudes. My third example is Mars in Gemini passing through my house 9, and it's square with my natal Saturn in Pisces. During this transit, control any tendency to have any feelings of anger or resentment, as these emotions may be stronger than usual. Be careful and pay attention to falls, bruises, burns, or accidents in general. Be cautious and take things more leniently. Stay focused and organized. And for my final example, Saturn in Aquarius passing through my house 6 is square with my natal Pluto in Scorpio. This Saturn transit marks a difficult phase in your life due to adverse circumstances or the behavior of those around you. This is a critical phase in your personal evolution, and whenever it happens, you must come out of it with your head held high, doing a real internal and external cleansing, even if you have to go through trials. At the moment, the recommended thing is to not bang your head against a brick wall. That is, it is no use arguing if everyone seems to be against you during this influence. It can be very difficult at the moment to make the changes you would like in life. You can be taken by the feeling that your ambitions and goals are blocked, that current circumstances do not allow you to achieve what you want. The next big aspect is going to be the sextile. The sextile connects two planets or essential bodies that are 60 degrees apart, and 360 degrees of the horoscope is divided by 6. The sextile is an aspect of opportunity that is also considered to be harmonious. The sextile also requires conscious effort to assimilate and embody its potential power, but when it's activated, it opens pathways to growth that can bring great potential. This is sometimes described as a weaker trine, With all aspects, the planets, signs, and houses involved change the power of the aspect considerably. The sextile is generally an aspect that brings mutual stimulation to both placements because it usually connects planets in two different elements to create extra stimulus and results. An example would be Mars in Gemini might be sextile to Saturn in Leo, and the combination of both Mars, which is will, and Saturn, determination, in air, Gemini symbolizing communication, in fire, Leo symbolizing leadership, would make for a very strong leader who communicates with authority. A better example is the moon in Capricorn, sextile Neptune in Pisces. During this transit, time should be taken out to visit any relatives or friends that are currently in the hospital, nursing homes, or institutions. You'll feel very charitable and should spend time volunteering at animal shelters and giving your time at soup kitchens. You'll feel very close to your female friends and may even be attracted to them. It is a perfect time for creative expression. Spending time on the beach will bring you a lot of joy and relaxation, especially meditating there at sunrise. As for a more complex example, here is one from my natal chart. Venus in Pisces, passing through my house 7, is sextile with my natal Uranus in Capricorn. This is a period conducive to attracting unusual, exciting, or unexpected business, as well as social or romantic opportunities. You tend to feel more cheerful, and others are likely to enjoy being in your company. There is a certain power of attraction emanating from you, which can make people approach you more easily. New ways of earning money may also come to mind, accompanied by greater freedom or a simple feeling of being alive and conscious in the world. Intuition is on the rise, so seize the moment. We're going to go ahead and start moving on to the more uncommon and complex aspects now. So if you're a beginner, you might get a little bit lost with these, so I'm sorry. This is more for the intermediate to advanced, which is for those interested in astrology. So this first one we're going to start off with is the quincunx, or otherwise known as the inconjunct. So the quincunx is a challenging aspect that involves planets or essential bodies in both different elements and different modalities. So it's difficult to find any common ground between the aspected bodies. It's a breakaway aspect that invites adjustment to understand that the two aspected bodies really cannot be integrated in the way an opposition or a square can. The two are conflicting because the differences are very complex, and it's necessary to encourage deep awareness and acceptance of an internal drive to compartmentalize the two areas of life so that the subject understands why this need exists. This discordant nature of the aspect is reflected by the fact that 150 degrees is not a whole number division of the 360 degrees of the horoscope. This is what makes this so complex. It's 150 degrees of a difference between the two planets or essential bodies. All right, so it's not divisible by the 360. All right. So an example is a person with Venus in Leo, quincunx, Saturn in Capricorn. So this person might have a love nature and is very playful and joyful and often has a desire to be around children, expecting a need to work hard and build a great security. This person will feel torn between the need to play and the need to work and find it difficult to resolve the two, always feeling like they should be doing the other, which leads to feeling of guilt. Next comes the quintile. The quintile divides the 360 degrees of the horoscope by 5 to create a 72-degree aspect between the two planets or essential bodies in the chart. In a horoscope, a quintile usually denotes creative talent, especially regarding patterns and structures. Those with a quintile or quintiles in their chart are usually more fulfilled in life when they create or find patterns of behavior that make the most of the two aspected planets, because these planets are where the subject is powerfully driven. A quintile between Mercury and Jupiter, for example, will mean that the person is driven to learn as much as they can, since Mercury is the mind and information, and Jupiter is expansion. This person may constantly be reading and or taking classes. The Sun can never be quintile to Mercury or Venus, as the three travel too closely together and are never 72 degrees apart. This quintile is also kind of uncommon as well. Next comes the semi-square. So the semi-square divides the 360 degrees of the horoscope by 8. It is half a square and similar to a square in that it represents a block. Awareness of the block is often activated by external events that invite the subject to work to integrate the two energies. It's often an area of inflexibility, and the aspect is actually inviting you to become more flexible and to learn ways to move past blocks. The semi-square between Mars and Saturn, for example, is one that often brings a tendency to give up when things feel too hard, when you are actually being asked to face your responsibilities and commitments with patience and perseverance in order to move through the block. When that lesson is learned, the person with this aspect can move mountains. Now we're going to talk about the sesquisquare. The sesquisquare is another minor aspect. The discordant energy is reflected by the fact that it doesn't divide by 360 degrees of the horoscope into a whole number. It is also known as the sesquiquadrate. This aspect is a semi-square times 3, or a combination of a square and a semi-square. And this gives an indication of what it symbolizes. This is another aspect that causes tension and challenge, and one that is said to need control, as the two aspected planets or essential bodies often lead to poor choices in life that amplify the lowest symbolism of the two aspected essential bodies. The last aspect that we're going to talk about is the semi-sextile. So the semi-sextile is an aspect that divides the 360 degrees of the horoscope by 12, which means the aspected planets are in adjacent signs. This suggested orb of 2 degrees for luminaries and 1 degree for other planets means that this would very rarely be a dissociate or out of sign aspect, although it does occur. This aspect has mixed interpretations, one school saying that it is a challenge for the planets to work together since the elements and modalities are different, and others saying that the horoscope is ordered the way that it is purposely, and that the energies of the signs is a personal growth and evolution, with each sign building off the preceding one, making this aspect a helpful one for the soul's evolutionary growth. Both interpretations can be true depending on the level of awareness and consciousness of the individual. A person who is already on the path of personal growth is more likely to integrate the two planets to create opportunities out of any difficulties the two energies bring. if you're interested in learning more about the aspects of the horoscope, I definitely recommend reading the book, The Complete Guide to Astrology, Understanding Yourself, Your Signs, and Your Birth Chart by Louise Eddington. This book goes into the lunar phases, it goes into different types of spells, it goes into spell timings, it goes into your natal chart. It'll go into the aspects, of course. It goes into everything you could possibly think of with astrology. It'll go into is like anything like beginner wise, at least. It'll go into. It's definitely a great starter point when learning about astrology. A website that you can also go to is astrosofa.com. That's astrosofa.com. And that website will actually give you the daily calendar of all the aspects of each day. So I personally like to use that for my daily calendar of aspects. So I can see what's going on today. How am I going to feel today? What is the current moon phase? When is going to be the next full moon? When is the next new moon? I can see it all on that website. And a app that I like to use for the aspects would be Astrolink, and that is on Google Play. I'm not sure if it's on Apple or not because I don't have an Apple phone, but it's called Astrolink. That's ASTROLINK, and that is how I actually learned about how the natal chart links with the current aspects of today's horoscope. So I didn't even know that was a thing until I found this app. And I thought that was the most amazing thing. And so once I found this app, I thought, just wow, that's crazy. That's amazing, and it's just so personal. But definitely check out these resources, especially if you're new to astrology and you're wanting to learn about these aspects and how they can affect you in your personal life. Yeah, definitely give these a try. Well, guys, that is the end of all of our aspects of the horoscope. I hope you guys enjoyed. I do have the transcript of this podcast posted on my blog. The website is going to be lorenafreyja.wordpress.com. That's spelled LORENAFREYJA.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on my socials. I'm at Lorena Freyja on Instagram and Twitter. And you can follow me on Facebook, Journey into Witchcraft. And I am also on Patreon. So I am now posting my grimoire on Patreon. So you can have full access to my grimoire, including spells. So I post new spells every Sunday. And they are catered to the days of the week as well as the moon phases. So I do have all of those that I'm posting every Sunday. So those are available for $5 a month on my Patreon. So look forward to that. It's under Journey into Witchcraft on there. And also, I am going to continue doing my full moon and new moon rituals on live platforms on Facebook. So definitely give me a follow on there so that you guys can see those events. All right. Thank you for listening.